Hi everybody, I'm Lady Sulevin and welcome to my realm of purpose. Today's video concerns what the modern Dalish elves believe, specifically about the creation of the world, as well as their gods. Because it is a bit complicated and I think it needs a 101 introduction, beginner's guide too. Yeah. This is purely what the modern elves of Fadis believe, so no deep lore, theories, or going back to the ancient elves. This video does not contain spoilers for any of the games, books, comics, etc. The Dalish teach that when time itself was still young, there were only two things in existence: the sun and the land. The land is sometimes called the earth. Depends. These two are sort of primeval deities that came before the actual 8-god pantheon that we're familiar with. Then of course there are the 8 good gods according to the Dalish, the Evanuris. Elgar'nan. Yeah, you trying to say Elgar'nan? Yeah? Elgar'nan, the leader of the pantheon and the god of vengeance and fatherhood. Mythal, the female counterpart to Elgar'nan, and she is the goddess of protection, justice, vengeance, and motherhood. Dirthamen, god of knowledge, secrets, and loyalty. Falon'din, god of death, the dead, guidance, and fortune. Sylaise, the goddess of fire, hearths, healing, domestic arts, and marriage. June, god of craft and building. Andruil, the goddess of hunting, fortune, and survival. Ghilan'nain, the goddess of navigation and the hahren. And then there are these evil gods, the Forgotten Ones, according to the Dalish. These are gods of terror, malice, spite, and pestilence. We don't know who all of them are, and we do not know their exact domains. We only have a few names and lore, hence the Forgotten Ones. They were meant to be forgotten. Geldauran, Dirthamen, Evanuris. And then we have an outlier out of all of these deities. While the Dalish do regard this next one as evil, he's loyal to neither group of gods. He's in his own little neutral category, let's say. Fen'Harel, the Dread Wolf. He is the god of trickery, betrayal, and rebellion. Long ago, when time itself was young, the only things in existence were the sun and the land. The sun, curious about the land, bowed his head close to her body, and Elgar'nan was born in the place where they touched. The sun and the land loved Elgar'nan greatly, for he was beautiful and clever. As a gift to Elgar'nan, the land brought forth great birds and beasts of sky and of forest, and all manner of wonderful green things. Elgar'nan loved his mother's gifts, and praised them highly, and walked amongst them often. The sun, looking down upon the fruitful land, saw the joy that Elgar'nan took in her works, and grew jealous. Out of spite he shone his face full upon all the creatures the earth had created, and burned them all to ashes. The land cracked and split from bitterness and pain, and cried salt tears for the loss of all she had wrought. The pool of tears cried for the land became the ocean, and the cracks in her body the first rivers and streams. Elgar'nan was furious at what his father had done, and vowed vengeance. He lifted himself into the sky and wrestled the sun, determined to defeat him. They fought for an eternity, and eventually the sun grew weak, while Elgar'nan's rage was unabated. Eventually Elgar'nan threw the sun down from the sky and buried him in a deep abyss created by the land's sorrow. With the sun gone, the world was covered in shadow, and all that remained in the sky were the reminders of Elgar'nan's battle with his father, drops of the sun's lifeblood, which twinkled and shimmered in the darkness. Pleased with himself, Elgar'nan sought to console his mother the earth by replacing all that the sun had destroyed. But the earth knew that without the sun, nothing could grow. She whispered to Elgar'nan this truth, and pleaded with him to release his father. But Elgar'nan's pride was great, and his vengeance was terrible, and he refused. It was at this moment that Mythal walked out of the sea of the earth's tears, and onto the land. She placed her hand on Elgar'nan's brow, and at her touch, he grew calm and knew that his anger had led him astray. Humbled, Elgar'nan went to the place where the sun was buried and spoke to him. Elgar'nan said that he would release the sun if the sun promised to be gentle and to return to the earth each night. The sun, feeling remorse at what he had done, agreed. And so the sun rose again in the sky and shone his golden light upon the earth. Elgar'nan and Mythal, with the help of the earth and the sun, brought back to life all the wondrous things the sun had destroyed, and they grew and thrived. And that night, when the sun had gone to sleep, Mythal gathered the glowing earth around his bed and formed it into a sphere to be placed in the sky, a pale reflection of the sun's true glory. The twins Falon'din and Dirthamen are the eldest children of Elgar'nan the Allfather and Mythal the Protector. The brothers were inseparable from the moment of their conception, known for their great love for each other. That is why we often speak of Falon'din in one breath and Dirthamen the next, for they cannot bear to be apart, not even in our tales. When the world was young, the gods often walked the earth, and Falon'din and Dirthamen were no exception. Both were delighted by the many wonders of the earth. They played with the animals, whispered to the trees, and bathed in the lakes and streams. Their days were filled with bliss, and they did not know sorrow. And then one day, while passing through the forest, Falon'din and Dirthamen came across an old and sickly deer, resting beneath a tree. "Why do you sit so still, little sister?" asked Falon'din. "Play with us," said Dirthamen. "Alas," spoke the deer, "I cannot. I am old, and although I wish to go to my rest, my legs can no longer carry me." Taking pity on the deer, Falon'din gathered her up in his arms and carried her to her rest beyond the vale. Dirthamen tried to follow them, but the shifting grey paths beyond the vale would not let him. Separated for the first time from Falon'din, Dirthamen wandered aimlessly till he came across two ravens. "You are lost, and soon you will fade," the raven named Fear said to Dirthamen. "Your brother has abandoned you. He no longer loves you," said the other, named Deceit. "I am not lost, and Falon'din has not abandoned me," replied Dirthamen. He subdued the ravens and bade them carry him to Falon'din. This they did, for they had been defeated and were now bound to Dirthamen's service. When Dirthamen found Falon'din, he found also the deer, who was once again light on her feet, for her spirit was released from her weakened body. Both Falon'din and Dirthamen rejoiced to see this. Falon'din vowed that he would remain to carry all the dead to their place beyond, just as he did the deer, and Dirthamen stayed with him, for the twins cannot bear to be apart. When the earth was new, Dirthamen gave one secret to each creature to keep. The foxes traded their secrets to Andruil for wings, the hares shouted theirs to the treetops, the birds sold theirs for gold and silver. Only the bears kept Dirthamen's secret. Deep within their dens, they slept for months away in the company of their secrets and nothing else. When Dirthamen discovered what had been done with his gifts, he snatched the wings from the foxes, silenced the voices of the hares, and turned the birds into paupers. But the bears he honoured for their steadfastness. When the people were young, we wandered the forests without purpose. We drank from streams and ate the berries and nuts that we could find. We did not hunt, for we had no bows. We wore nothing, for we had no knowledge of spinning or needlecraft. We shivered in the long nights and went hungry through the winters, when all the world was covered in snow and ice. Then Sylaise the Hearthkeeper came and gave us fire and taught us how to feed it with wood. June taught us how to fashion bows and arrows and knives, so that we could hunt. We learned to cook the flesh of the creatures we hunted over Sylaise's fire, and we learned to clothe ourselves in their furs and skins. And the people were no longer cold and hungry. Sylaise the Hearthkeeper is seen as the sister of Andruil the Huntress. While Andruil loved to run with the creatures of the wild, Sylaise preferred to stay by her home tree, occupying herself with gentle arts and song. It is Sylaise who showed us how to heal with herbs and with magic, and how to ease the passage of infants into this world. And again, it is Sylaise who showed us how to spin the fibres of plants into thread and rope. We owe much to Sylaise, and that is why we sing to her when we kindle the fires and when we put them out. That is why we sprinkle our Arravels with Sylaise's fragrant tree moss, and ask that she protect them and all within. Whenever one of the people wronged another, they would not call to Elgar'nan to avenge them, for his fury would destroy all it touched. Mythal saw this bring strife among the people, and went to Elgar'nan. She offered to deliver justice when the people warred amongst themselves. Elgar'nan saw her wisdom, and agreed, binding all to abide by her verdicts. Some petitioning Mythal for justice had jealousy, accusing those who had done them no wrong. She saw their lies and struck them down. Others petitioning Mythal for justice burned with wrath for imagined slights. She saw their weak hearts and struck them down. Those coming to her with clear minds and open hearts were granted judgment and protection, and Mythal harried their enemies until the end of their days. They say that Ghilan'nain was one of the people, in the days before Arlathan, and the chosen of Andruil the Huntress. She was very beautiful, with hair of snowy white, and as graceful as a gazelle. She kept always to the ways of Andruil, and Andruil favoured her above all others. One day, while hunting in the forest, Ghilan'nain came across a hunter she did not know. At his feet lay a hawk, shot through the heart by an arrow. Ghilan'nain was filled with rage, for the hawk, along with the hare, is an animal much beloved of Andruil. Ghilan'nain demanded that the hunter make an offering to Andruil in exchange for taking the life of one of her creatures. The hunter refused, and Ghilan'nain called upon the goddess to curse him, so that he could never hunt again and kill a living creature. Ghilan'nain's curse took hold, and the hunter found that he was unable to hunt. His prey would dart out of sight, and his arrows would fly astray. His friends and family began to mock him for his impotence. For what is a hunter who cannot hunt? Ashamed, the hunter swore he would find Ghilan'nain and repay her for what she had done to him. He found Ghilan'nain while she was out on a hunt with her sisters, and lured her away from them with lies and false words. He told Ghilan'nain that he had learned his lesson and begged her to come with him, so she could teach him to make a proper offering to Andruil. Moved by his plea, Ghilan'nain followed the hunter, and when they were away from all of her sisters, the hunter turned on Ghilan'nain. He blinded her first, and then bound her as one would bind a fresh kill from the hunt. But because he was cursed, the hunter could not kill her. Instead, he left her for dead in the forest, and Ghilan'nain prayed to the gods for help. She prayed to Elgar'nan for vengeance, to Mother Mythal to protect her, but above all else she prayed to Andruil. Andruil sent her hares to Ghilan'nain, and they chewed for the ropes that bound her. But Ghilan'nain was still wounded and blind, so Andruil turned her into a beautiful white deer, the first Hala. And Ghilan'nain found her way back to her sisters, and led them to the hunter, who was brought to justice. And since that day, the Hala have guided the people, and have never led us astray, for they listen to the voice of Ghilan'nain. There is precious little we know about Fen'Harel, for they say he did not care for our people. Elgar'nan and Mythal created the world as we know it. Andruil taught us the ways of the hunter. Sylaise and June gave us fire and crafting. But Fen'Harel kept to himself, and plotted the betrayal of all the gods. And after the destruction of Arlathan, when the gods could no longer hear our prayers, it is said that Fen'Harel spent centuries in a far corner of the earth, giggling madly and hugging himself in glee. The legend says that before the fall of Arlathan, the gods we know and revere fought an endless war with others of their kind. There's not a hahren among us who remembers those others. Only in dreams do we hear whispered the names of Geldauran and Dirthamen and Evanuris, for they are the forgotten ones, the gods of terror and malice, spite and pestilence. In ancient times, only Fen'Harel could walk without fear among both our gods and the forgotten ones, for although he is kin to the gods of the people, the forgotten ones knew of his cunning ways, and saw him as one of their own. And that is how Fen'Harel tricked them. Our gods saw him as a brother, and they trusted him when he said that they must keep to the heavens while he arranged a truce. The Forgotten Ones trusted him also when he said he would arrange for the defeat of our gods, if only the Forgotten Ones would return to the Abyss for a time. They trusted Fen'Harel, and they were all of them betrayed, and Fen'Harel sealed them away so they could never again walk among the people. There are no gods. There is only the subject and the object, the actor and the acted upon. Those with the will to earn dominance over others gain title not by nature, but by deed. I am Geldauran, and I refuse those who exert will upon me. Let Andruil's bow crack, let June's fire grow cold. Let them build temples and lure the faithful with promises. Their pride will consume them, and I, forgotten, will claim power of my own, apart from them until I strike in mastery.